we'll go over the mock draft 1.0. So how I did this is I just went on to one of the mock draft websites there, and I just picked the Lions and did the full 7 rounds and just kind of went based on who was there. So we'll walk through it here. Obviously, you can see who I've selected. You can see the trades I did up top as well. So at pick 28, there was a lot of really good defensive linemen still sitting there. And to me, the biggest need is defensive tackle and defensive end. I want one more edge rusher, one more D tackle. And to me, I think those should be the first 2 picks. So I traded 28 to Jacksonville. Jacksonville had offered 36 and a 6th round pick in next year's draft. Probably could have got a bit more in return, but that was the best offer. So went with that. Traded down to 36, and Derek Harmon was still sitting there. The other 2 that I looked at there were Donovan Ezuraku, the edge rusher from Boston College, and Nick Scorton, the edge rusher from Texas A&M. So it was Harmon was the last defensive tackle left of the guys that I really liked, and then there was just a few edge rushers left. So I went with Harmon, and the plan was we still had pick 60 in the 2nd round, so would hope that one of the edge rushers would fall to 60. And then, of course, right as all those picks went, then it was just a run on edge rushers. So I hopped in, made a trade, traded 60, 130, and a 3rd rounder next year to San Francisco for 43 to move up and get JT Tuimoloau, the edge rusher from Ohio State. As a Michigan guy, it pains me to take an Ohio State guy, but he's a baller. He's great against the run, great against the pass. He swats passes down better than most people in this draft. I think pairing him with Hutchinson, and then you get Harmon and pair him with Ali McNeil when healthy, that's a great defensive line. That's one of the better defensive lines in football, and it's a young defensive line. So I literally didn't consider anybody else because he was the last of that upper tier edge rusher on the board. So I took him without a second thought. And that was the last trade for the draft. So I went all the way to 102. And like I said, I wasn't happy with how Glasgow played. And just at this point, you need depth, whether it's offensive line. You can always use depth at wide receiver, at DB, at linebacker. I mean, we had so many injuries defensively last year. So I was just kind of going best player available for positions of depth. At 102, I was looking at Jared Wilson. Obviously, you can see I took him, the interior offensive lineman from Georgia. Then I was also looking at Tez Johnson, the wide receiver from Oregon, and Savion Williams, the wide receiver from TCU. So there were a couple wide receivers I really liked in this spot. And then, but Jared Wilson, I just had to take here. So I was really happy to see him there and just rolled with it. Sorry, these comments aren't popping up on my StreamYard, but I just saw them on Facebook here. Sean Spencer, thank you for tuning in. Says, let's go. What's going on? Just happy to be back talking football. You know how it is. Thank you for getting me back into it. So, Jerry, what's up, Alex? Thank you for tuning in, man. Hope you're doing well. Eric, I'm here for the Brock Wright updates. Never said by anyone else. Hey, I love that we kept Brock Wright. He's a great tight end, too, to pair with Sam Laporta. Ben said, welcome back, sir. I need me some roar back in my viewing life. Thank you for tuning in. Glad to be back. All right. So, yeah, pick 102. It was between Wilson, Tez Johnson, and Savion Williams. I went with Jared Wilson because the offensive line, especially the interior, kind of started to fall off at this point as well. And as you can see, I found a really wide receiver at 196, Nick Nash, the wide receiver from San Jose State. Even though Travis Hunter won the award for the best receiver, the Biletnikoff Award in college football this past year, the best wide receiver by a wide margin was Nick Nash. He's big. He's not super fast, but a bit explosive. And and good at jump balls, using that frame to kind of box out DBs and come down with the ball. But there were a lot of guys I was looking at here. There was Seth McLaughlin, the center from Ohio State. There was Sebastian Castro, the safety from Iowa, and Malachi Moore, the safety from Alabama, who I was going to go with till I saw Nick Nash still sitting there. Figured could get one more wide receiver. Tim Patrick isn't going to be here forever, so get a solid third receiver and make it a really, really good trio. And then 228, there were a few different guys I was looking at. There were, obviously, I went with Jack Nelson at 228, the offensive tackle from Wisconsin. I really like his game. He's physical. He's a solid pass blocker. He's a really good run blocker. I think he could do very well learning from Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell and could potentially take over when Taylor Decker's done. So I really like that pick there. I was also looking at Brady Cook, the quarterback from Missouri. This late in the draft, you can never go wrong with taking a quarterback to compete for that second, third, fourth string, essentially practice squad guy. And especially with that emergency quarterback being the third guy. I think it's necessary to take a look at quarterbacks almost every year, at least every other year. And then a guy that I ended up taking with the next pick, Luke Lackey, the tight end from Iowa, was another guy I considered at 228. And at 244, I just went best player available at a position in need. So Luke Lackey can go in and compete with, I think he'd compete for tight end 3. I don't think he'd quite push Brock Wright and those guys. Definitely not yet, maybe eventually. But he could push Shane Zylstra and those guys for that tight end 3 spot. I also looked at Dante Trader Jr. from Maryland. I really like his game. Almost took him, but then figured the tight end was probably the bigger need. So that's my mock draft. I'll have another one ready to go for next week, but let me know what you guys think.